We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara from Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 105a. The Mishnah here continues, Bitel mida bechevel hein chaser hein yeser. Let's say the person who's selling the property, he says that I'm selling hein chaser hein yeser. That's what he says first. I'm selling whether it's a little less, whether it's a little more. But then he finishes the sentence and says mida bechevel, I'm selling it as measured by a rope. So then again we go by the second term. We say that mida bechevel nullifies hein chaser hein yeser, and we assume that it has to be an exact amount. Divrei Bananas, these are the words of Bananas, this is the opinion of Bananas, and the Rashbam explains, Bitel mida bechevel hein chaser hein yeser. In this situation here, the phrase mida bechevel nullifies hein chaser hein yeser v'impiches kolshu, and therefore even in the small amount, if it's even less by a small amount, yinachi deducts v'im hoser kolshu, or if it's extra by a small amount, yachzir, it has to be returned. Divrei Bananas, this is the words of Bananas, upligi Rabbanan lebe Gemara, as we'll see in the Gemara, the Rabbanan disagree with Bananas. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Bava bar Mamul, Amar Rav, Rabbi Bava bar Mamul says, the Rav says, Cholken olav chaverav al Bananas, his colleagues, the colleagues of Bananas, they argue on Bananas. The Gemara says, "My kamashmalan." What is that teaching us? We already know that. That's a Mishnah Tanina. We learned in a Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Babba Metzia. Ma'isa b'tzipori. There was an incident in Tzipori. Bi'echad shesachar merchatz mechavero. Person, he rented a merchatz, a bathhouse from his friend, and the way it was phrased was b'shneim asar zehuvim lashana. He said it's going to be for 12 dinar for the year, but then he said dinar zav lachodesh. It's going to be 1 dinar per month, and the issue was that it ended up being a leap year. So since it ended up being a leap year, there was actually 13 months to the year. So if you go by the first part of the phrase, it would just be 12 dinar. But if you go by the second part of the phrase, dinar zav lachodesh, 1 dinar per month, and now there are 13 months in the year, so then it would be 13 dinar. So the question is, what do you follow? Uba ma'isa lifnei Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel v'lifnei Rabbi Yossi. So this incident came before Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yossi. V'yamru, when they said yachloku es chodesh ha'ibur, you have to divide. We're not sure. It's a suffix over here. It's a doubt. What do we do about the leap month? And therefore, that the rent for that month should be divided. And so that's different than Bananas in our Mishnah, because Bananas would say that you follow the second part of the phrase. You follow dinar zahav lachodesh, and according to Bananas, the person renting the bathhouse would have to pay that extra dinar. But here, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yossi, they are saying no, we split it, and so therefore you see that this is a machlokas tanoim. And the Gemara says, well, the Gemara is in the middle of a question and saying, why does Rav have to tell us that there are those who argue in Bananas? Isn't it obvious from the Mishnah? And the Gemara says, no, Rav does have to tell us this, because Imei Hasam, if we only had the Mishnah over there, this incident in Tzipori by the bathhouse, so Havaminas, I would have thought, Hasam hu de'ikal amemer, over there we say that it's really a genuine suffix, because one can say, Mahader kahader be, it is possible he's retracting. He originally said 12 per year, then he's retracting and saying 1 a month. But there is another possibility. It's possible that Prushe Kamefarish, it's possible he was just explaining. What do I mean when I say 12 dinar for the year? I mean to say 1 per month. But over here, here there's no question that the two statements he's making are contradictory. He's saying Mida Bechevel, that means exact. He's saying Hein Chaser Hein Yeser, that means it could be a little less, could be a little more. It's not exact. So where it's contradicting, so it's possible Ein Malos. It's possible I wouldn't say it's a suffix. I would definitely say you follow the second statement. And so Kamash Malon, that's why Rav is teaching us that no, they are arguing, in fact, and again, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah by the Ma'aseh b'Tzipori are arguing with Bananas. They say it's a suffix and you divide, and Bananas says you go by the later phrase. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, Zu divrei Bananas. This is the opinion of Bananas, that we follow the second phrase, the later phrase. Avol Chachamim Omrim, but the Chachamim say, Halach achar pachos shebelashonos. You go after the lesser of the languages. Now what that means, when we say you go after the lesser of the languages, it means to say that we essentially follow the Chazakah. The money stays wherever it is. That's what the Chachamim are saying. Essentially the Chachamim are saying it is a suffix. We don't know exactly what the person meant. And so therefore, everything should remain wherever it is. And the Gemara now continues and says, Zu velo svirole. So first of all, when Shmuel makes the statement, this is the opinion of Bananas, it sounds like he doesn't hold like Bananas. That's Zu velo svirole. Is Shmuel saying that this is the opinion of Bananas, but he doesn't hold like Bananas, rather he holds like the Chachamim? But that's not true. V'haravu Shmuel da'amri tarvai, but Rav and Shmuel, they both say, Kor b'shloshim ani mocher lach. Let's say a person says that I'm selling a kor for 30, so yachol lachzor bo afilo b'so achrona. So there, the sale is not complete until the buyer takes the entire kor. even if he hasn't taken just the last saw, that sale is not complete. But kor b'shloshim saw b'sela ani mocher lach. Let's say the way it's phrased is I'm selling you a kor for 30, and that means I'm selling you one saw, every saw per sela. So then every saw that is taken, that part of the sale is completed. Rishon kana. So then it's acquired one by one. And the point over here is that it seems that Rav and Shmuel in this latter case are saying exactly like Benanis. They're saying when he says kor b'shloshim, but then says saw b'sela, we say that the saw b'sela is what we follow. We don't follow the kor b'shloshim. Rather, he's selling every saw for a sela, and that's why with every saw that the buyer takes, that part of the sale is complete. That seems like Shmuel actually holds like Benanis. And the Gemara says ela zu usvirle. Rather, you have to say that's true. Shmuel really does hold like Benanis, and when Shmuel says this is the opinion of Benanis, but the Chachamim argue, Shmuel really means to say this is the opinion of Benanis, and I agree with Benanis. But the Gemara says, is that really true? Misvirle, does Shmuel really agree with the opinion of Benanis? V'amar Shmuel, but Shmuel said, going on that case in Sipore by the bathhouse, where it was 12 zehuvim for the year, but it was 1 dinar per month. So Shmuel says the reason why Rav Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yossi say they have to split it is b'ba be'emtza hachodesh askinan. That's because the dispute came in the middle of the month. So since we were right in the middle of the month, so we say split it. Avol ba b'tchilas hachodesh. But let's say this issue comes up at the beginning of the month. So then kulo lamaskir. So then we say that the maskir actually wins the case because he's the one with chazaka. At this point in time, the maskir, the person who's renting out the bathhouse, now it comes to the last month, and the maskir is saying either you don't take the bathhouse or you have to pay me the rent. So it's considered to be in his possession, and he wins. And besofa chodesh, let's say it's at the end of the month, meaning to say he's already been there for that extra month, and now the maskir wants his money. So kulo lasocher. So then everything goes to the socher, the renter. The renter wins the case in that situation. And so you see from here that Shmuel does not hold like Benanis. Shmuel is saying that when the Tanoim, when Rav Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yossi say that you split it, that's only in a situation where it's in the middle of the month, because really we're essentially following Chazakah. This really is a suffix. We don't know whether to follow the first part of the phrase or the second part of the phrase, and we say therefore that everything stays in whatever Chazakah, wherever it is, that's where the money stays, and that seems to indicate that Shmuel does not hold like Benanis, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kufhei Amud Beis.